Welcome back to Masters Tour here in Seoul, South Korea. We're just about wrapped up with the initial Swiss stage of the tournament. A couple more matches being broadcast from Swiss round 12 before we find out who our top 8 will be. And after this, we'll be bringing our initial matches of top 8 before the Championship Sunday tomorrow to find out who our champion will be. And it's a pretty interesting shape-up of our prospective top 8 here, with not quite so many majors as one might expect.
Yeah, I mean, coming into this tournament, Mage was by far the most popular class, but as things have really shaken out over the Swiss rounds, the players who have brought decks to beat Mage have been the ones who have really been succeeding. We did see Suni just take a loss that round against a Mage deck, but even with that loss, I think it's very likely that he will end up making the top 8 thanks to his performance leading up to that round in his tiebreakers.
Yeah, I think that's very, very reasonable to assume, and I hope he does. Again, as Dan was saying, nice to have a little bit of Korean representation here at a local tournament in South Korea. And also just because I like this priest deck a lot. I think it's got a really good spot in the meta, which maybe hasn't been realized completely yet. I'm a little bit sad that some of the classes didn't make it quite so far as I would have hoped. I wanted to see a little bit more Shaman knocking about at the top, not only because I like it, also just because I think it's in a pretty good spot. It had a good win rate against the majors for a good portion of the tournament as well.
Yeah, I am curious to see how things do break down once we do get to our top 8, and that's going to be very soon. We are in the final round of Swiss, and once this round does conclude, and we're about to see one of those matches that will lead to breaking down into what our top 8 will look like, and you're getting what you want. Look, we have a Shaman at the top of the screen, and then we have ourselves a Rogue on the bottom.
Yes, we do. The aggro Rogue that we have seen do so well against the mages, and hey, my wish is my command. I think that this is a swapping round of the cameras here, because if I remember, Beekeeper was not on the aggro Shaman. I think that's probably his opponent there on the aggressive version of Shaman. And we'll
we did see Beekeeper on the stream before, and he was playing Rogue.
Yes, that's correct.
So I believe we do have the graphics swapped for the players there, but. Yeah, and we have seen a lot of this Rogue deck doing quite well, and much as we were discussing, I believe that is in large part due to the power level it has shown against Mage. The Shaman is one that we haven't seen quite as much, but again, it is a deck that can put on a lot of pressure and force those opponents who are looking to play Pocket Galaxy on 5 to really reconsider that, because that can end up just ending up being lethal damage coming your way.
It can indeed, and I think against the aggro Rogue specifically, it's actually a really interesting matchup, because I would say in terms of early game locking down board, at the moment, Shaman is unparalleled. It's got the Thunderhead in particular, as well as Crackle, Lick Him, even just Voltaic Burst is very, very strong. It should be able to lock down the board pretty securely in the mid stages of the game. I mean, I would say already we're getting close to that point once the Thunderhead comes down. Yeah, I think the consideration is the damage. That's where it might start to get a bit messy.
Well, I mean, speaking of being able to lock down a board here, this is a huge swing turn coming in.
This is pretty good.
We do see the SI and the weapon and the Dread Corsair all come down, and suddenly there's a pair of 3/3s and a big weapon against nothing.
Just received word from production as well that despite my excellent Chinese reading ability, which is it's effectively 0, we're gonna the best way to refer to this Chinese player would be Zhong.
Zhong.
Zhong. Yeah.
Okay.
The
Zhong.
His name. Yeah.
That was what I thought it was.
Yes. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure so I didn't misrefer to his name.
Okay, and now we see the Toxfin coming down. Usually something you don't see played by itself, but I think that is kind of a sign that there is that War Leader in the hand, or at least possibly another Toxfin or something to make get value out of that. Speaking of value, though, this Wasteland Assassin coming off the Pharaoh Cat is representing either removal or damage, whichever the player so chooses. And again, I do believe that we have the player portrait swap, so a little bit confusing when I'm trying to refer to
yes.
Who is doing what?
And it's a really rough spot for Beekeeper, because the Earthshock would be fantastic against literally any other reborn minion. As long as it didn't have stealth, he'd be able to very efficiently deal with it. It's just that one Wasteland Assassin, which is so annoying for the Shaman to be able to deal with. Especially in addition to the fact that the Shaman has just not found any overload spells, really, to go in combination with the Thunderhead. So while I was saying that the early game board control would be pretty much locked out in favor of the Shaman, that has definitely concluded to not be the case, as I imagine that Zhong is going to, unless a miracle comes along here, pretty quickly close this one out. Or rather, Beekeeper. The Rogue should be able to close this one out very quickly.
Whoever it is that's
Whoever
playing
it
Rogue.
may be. Yeah.
Urshak there is going to get at least a little bit of value here, but perhaps a little bit too late as the damage has been done. 11 life remaining for the Shaman.
He got bored. It happened. It's just a little bit too late, like you said.
And we do see there is weapon still up here. Myra's in hand. It is at least a weaker weapon. Not a big weapon for the swing just yet. Yeah, are we gonna see? I was gonna say, are we gonna see Sap into Scimitar here? Or are we gonna see Sap into Myra's? And I like the Scimitar because you get the damage in right now, and then you set yourself up to just draw Eviscerate off of this Myra's here, and actually just end the game.
Yeah, I like that point a lot. Kind of preloading, getting the full 8 damage rather than just the 4 off the Scimitar next turn, I think is a big difference indeed. The Shaman here really feeling the lack of any kind of defensive maneuvers at all. I think the best that this deck can muster is just some kind of taunts. Like it has a couple of taunts in the Feral Spirits, which can sometimes be included in the deck, but I don't even think they're that core anymore.
All right. Myra's is coming up, and yeah, I think no Eviscerate just yet. There is just the oh, never mind. It was I literally missed it as being the first card. I was just like, "There's no Eviscerate." Oh no, it's literally. I wasn't even looking when it got drawn. And I'm walking, look at the rest of the hand, but yeah, there it is. So. Yeah, we were talking about wanting to see Shaman doing well. It could, yeah. We do see confirmation from that. It was in fact Beekeeper who was playing Rogue there, despite the graphical swap we had there with the portraits.
Yeah, pretty nice victory for the Rogue, and I think that's generally what's going to happen unless the Shaman can get off to a very quick lead on the board. It's going to fall behind because while it is aggro Shaman, it's burst Shaman. I think that the Rogue, the biggest thing it has over that is the high damage weapons a lot of the time, which, Lick him is effectively 9 damage, but it takes a little bit longer to get rolling. And the Shaman just has to play on the defensive a little bit too much, and it plays very poorly on the defensive.
I feel like the big turn that game was when we saw the SI and the Drake Corsair come down and just totally swing the board. Yeah. It was 3 minions to none, and then it was 2 minions to 0 with a weapon remaining. Yeah. And that really just absolutely broke serve in terms of the way that board played out. And then again, the Wasteland Assassin coming in and getting the damage in, not be able to be taken down by the Thunderhead and all of the little rushing elementals before it just did enough to close out the game.
And so I wonder if we'll see a shake-up in the decks. We don't have access to them quite yet, unfortunately. But for Zhong on his Shaman, one of the things I found most weird about the Shaman decks I've seen, be it the aggro versions or the token versions, is that they seem pretty unrefined in terms of the sideboard decks that are being slotted in. Because if you remember back to the start of Grand Masters as kind of the start of the specialist format this year, at least at the top level, sideboards kind of sucked at first. It was the thing that took the longest time for players to get used to because it was brand new. We haven't had that in Hearthstone before.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely takes some getting used to, and there's different theories of how you want to approach it, right? So in some cases, you decide, okay, well, I want to make my deck better against the decks I expect to play against the most, but then you think, wait a minute, shouldn't I just have my main deck be the deck that's good against the decks that I expect to play against the most, and then sort of look at the various sort of extreme strategies I might run into. Usually for a lot of players, you have, this is my anti-control deck, this is my anti-aggro deck. It's kind of what you branch off into with your secondary decks. And that is not necessarily something that gives you the tools that you want against some very specific decks.
Jumping straight into game number 2 here. Beekeeper, still unfortunately wrong around. I don't know if we'll be able to fix that before this is over. This is, again, a pre-recorded match from just a little bit earlier, just a few minutes earlier, during when this was going on in round 12.
Shoe on head.
Yeah, I know. Sorry to kind of part the kimono on that one, but it's better than
I've never heard part the kimono as like a look behind the veil kind of terminology.
Well, I hate to
you have very specific
part the kimono on revealing expressions to you.
All right, well, and yeah, we do have again, as you mentioned, we can't quite make the graphical swap here because of the fact that this is overlaid on pre-recorded footage. Yeah. So we're just gonna have to use your imagination.
We'll paint you a word picture as to how this is shaping out. But for the Shaman in this one, this is not the absolute dream, I would say, quite yet, because the Thunderhead is not here. Right. But we're getting a pretty strong pseudo Thunderhead effect with being able to generate all these little sparks to clean up the board, and more importantly, keeping this value rolling. This Spirit of the Frog is insane.
Yeah, Spirit of the Frog definitely doing a lot of work here, and we're seeing one of the reasons that players did choose to bring this particular deck. Able to churn out a couple of Earthen Mites.
Yep.
And one of those Earthen Mites will give up a Lava Burst, or there was the possibility, at least, of a Hunting Echoes, I believe.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, but we do see the Faceless Lackey plus the SI come down and go into Shadow Step. All right, just going wider here. Shadow Step on the Faceless. Just go ahead and make another 2-drop. So here, you know, the Rogue Beekeeper is just playing as much as he can to the board right now, trying to take advantage of this overloaded turn, but oof.
Yeah.
The Mogu Flesh Shaper coming in, that
Absolutely
is big.
And I think this is exactly what the Rogue was correct in doing. A full 30 health, the Shaman, I think, is a little bit too far off of any kind of lethal possibilities with Burst. And I think going for board is absolutely the way to go. However, only at 2 mana, it's going to be pretty close as to whether or not Beekeeper can actually lock this one down. He'll be able to get rid of, I think actually probably everything when you include the Mogu Flesh Shaper. At the very least, the vast majority of board presence, and then follow up hopefully with a thinned out deck that is more able to draw through to the powerhouse cards, like of course the Thunderhead in particular.
It's sort of interesting that he's choosing to play the minion after the attack. Missed 1 mana. He's not spending the mana. This at least uses his mana perfectly.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, the Earthshock, you couldn't even use it as 1 mana, 1 damage to clear the board there, so I do like that use of it. And again, it's just on an absolute knife's edge here, this matchup, as to who will pull ahead. The Rogue looks to be ahead at the moment, but then we could just see next turn a potential full clear with Lava Burst, Lick Him as well being picked up now.
And that Lick Him is actually
nice.
A pretty huge draw because you know, it does give the Shaman the ability to actually completely take down this board. And frankly, you know, the Rogue does not have very much left in the hand. There's, you know, only the damage from the Deadly Poison and Eviscerate. Backstab, a poor draw. Nothing really available to target with Walk the Plank.
It's looking like one of those you've got to draw Myra's games as it currently stands. I think even with the burst cards coming off the top, it's probably the fact that the Rogue is going to die before the Shaman does, if the Shaman gets any reasonable draws whatsoever.
Cloud Prince the Mighty. 5-cost 4/4. Your go.
Seems weird that we're in the kind of situation where that's actually just pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, you got to kill it.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity to use this Walk the Plank, recognizing, okay, well, I need to try and close out this game, right? Because as this goes on longer, you know, there are a lot of powerful draws available for the Shaman here. Sludge Slurper, you know, kind of one of them here. Finds a Goblin Lackey. Would have loved a Kobold Lackey so he could kill this Fairy Dragon without losing any health.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would have loved pretty much anything other than that. Like, obviously the dream would be Ethereal Lackey, maybe even just a Faceless Lackey for more board control. This is just not really what he's looking for at the moment. However, drawing closer and closer to a state where he can just push for lethal, actually, I would say. It's not all too far off, especially if he's able to find Doomhammer, a Lava Burst, something like that, to push him over the edge. But I would say it's still anybody's game. With a couple of good draws, the Rogue could definitely claw its way back into this one.
Yeah. I think that right now we're seeing the Shaman decide, okay, do I want to just use Earthen Might? Do I want to protect... ooh, okay, just going to fire up with a Goblin Lackey and then Earthen Might? Okay, so this... The idea here is that, you know, wanting to present a threat that doesn't just die to Backstab. Backstab's a card that makes a ton of sense to be in the hand.
Yeah.
But there is an Eviscerate.
This is now, again, a potential full board clear.
Yeah, we're just seeing everything dying. And now, you know, Beekeeper's sitting here.
Wow.
The Rogue's sitting here thinking, all right, you know what, I need Myra's. I've used everything I got.
So in the top deck wars, I would have to guess at a first estimate the Shaman, on average, will come out slightly ahead.
Well, there's the Thunderhead.
Incredible draws like Thunderhead to pull them into the lead. Spirit of the Frog was insane. Doomhammer would have put them in a great spot as well.
Well, I think actually Spirit of the Frog may not have. Are there any 2s left? There's already both Earth and Mice. I don't know if there's
the Rockbiter Doomhammer package.
Right.
I think. Again, we haven't seen either of those cards, so I guess there's
Correct.
a chance he's cut that package entirely. But in the Lava Burst aggro version, it seemed pretty cool.
Right. That's true. That's fair. All right. Well, this Fairy Dragon not really cutting it. Oh, Vicina.
That's the one you're looking for.
Yeah, so Lightning Bolt goes face, Vicina overloads all your other minions, get +2 attack. That means one of these elemental sparks comes in and clears out this Fairy Dragon. And you know what? That is an angry Stoneclaw Totem. 2 damage to the face, gets healed up even.
Yeah, there is just absolutely nothing that the Rogue can do here. Often touted as one of the best cards, if not the best card of the expansion by some players in Vicina. Very nicely closing that one out there for the Shaman, which brings us up to 1 game apiece now.
Yeah, Vicina is the reason I think a lot of players like that aggressive Shaman deck now. It's sort of not a card that got nearly as much attention as, the quests, for instance. The quests are like, oh wow, these are all incredibly powerful, and they are cards that define your deck and define the games because you always draw them. But the games that you do draw Vicina in a deck like this, it is incredibly powerful. I mean, that game wasn't particularly, like close at that stage, but in a game where like you just kind of have a few things floating around, Vicina can absolutely turn it on its head.
It seems kind of crazy when you refer it back to one of the most infamous cards of the time in Thunderbluff Valiant, where you had to hero power as well as the body, and then it only buffed your totems, whereas this one, you just slam it on curve, and you're probably overloaded anyway.
Really? Well, you're overloaded in your deck with like 12 overload cards. How surprising.
Most of which cost 1 or 0 as well, yeah.
Well, in particular, Thunderhead with that card is unbelievable. Like, Thunderhead, Voltaic Burst, like literally it's like, okay, I'll kill your giant with my like 3 token minions. And then everything else goes face and you die too.
I love Shaman, man. I think it's so fun at the moment. I think the core of the deck that they've got rolling, especially with the Rastakan's Rumble cards that came in, like Haunting Vision, Spirit of the Frog in particular, and Lick Him. I think it was a very cool, flavorful set for Shaman that gave it a good idea of a spell-based class that can play aggressive or control-y.
All right, well, this looks to be more of an aggressive draw here for the Shaman, as once again, it is in fact Beekeeper on the Rogue, and Zhang on the Shaman. They are swapped currently in terms of the portraits, but we know what's going on.
We know.
Or at least we kind of pretend we do. And we do have Dagger hitting the first point of health off this Tide Collar, so it's not really going to get crazy. But the second Tide Collar, going to get a little bit of damage in at least. And this is a matchup where very much the life totals are super important because both of these decks have a bunch of burst damage and can end the game out of nowhere. Not going to be a Tide Collar, though. Does find Stoneclaw to protect it.
Yeah, very, very important start there for Beekeeper to protect this minion. Because the Tide Callers are a bit of a weird card in this deck, I find, because you're only running 6 Murlocs in the deck, right? It's the Sludge Slurpers, the Anglers, and the Tide Callers here. So the main reason you're playing them is obviously a little bit of overload synergy, but Angler, to be able to go for those absurd combos that you can go for there. A lot of the time, these are just 1-mana 1/2s, which against Rogue are pretty terrible, actually, a lot of the time.
Okay. Yeah, I was briefly surprised by this, but then I realized that he could cast the Corsair into Miscreant next turn, or Corsair into the SI agent. So I was like, okay, why are you deadlying here when you can use that as a combo next turn? But that's exactly why. Spirit of the Frog comes down, and preloading the Spirit of the Frog like this is pretty nice, where you actually just get to get a full mana turn because you're not really under any meaningful pressure here.
This is where I top deck the Thunderhead every time. I understand. I don't think I've ever missed it in this situation.
I don't even necessarily need the Thunderhead for this to be a crazy powerful turn here.
It'd be nice.
It would.
But you're right. It is still absolutely ridiculous. You can even start messing with Haunting Vision numbers there, because that can kind of give you another 0-mana spell, and 0 manas are quite rare. It's only Zap in this deck. So to help you get more of those 1-mana cards with Spirit of the Frog.
Yeah, and so
yeah, I like
fires
this.
off. Yeah, looks like maybe looking to do exactly as you're mentioning. Yeah, gonna Lightning Bolt first. Okay. Get the final remaining 2 from the Spirit of the Frog, I imagine. Oh, there actually is not one.
Only
it's just one Rockbiter.
Interesting. Interesting build.
All right, well, Visions into Visions.
That's pretty nuts.
Gets you another one and gets you a free shot here.
Or maybe you take Mutate as well, just for another 0 mana spell after you've cast the reduced cost one as well. It was close. Because you could have even gone for Mutate on the Frog, right, and get a 4-drop.
Sure, yeah.
I think I would have preferred that.
Yeah, I mean the additional burn damage is certainly pretty powerful, though.
It's true. Yeah. There's obviously reasoning behind it.
But yeah, this is just a situation where the Spirit of the Frog is just getting cleared off by the weapon that's already queued up.
Right.
So you're getting 0 damage off of this. So yeah, I actually think that a Mutate does seem pretty appealing there. Although, is he out of 1 mana spells? So we've seen Voltaic Burst, Lightning Bolt, Voltaic Burst. I don't think there's any more. There may be an Earth Shock left.
That's fair. I mean, by that metric, Lava Burst doesn't draw a card either, does it? I think it's just it was a powerful card in its own right, even without drawing.
Right. Well, I'm just looking at like the implications of the Mutate with the Spirit of the Frog.
Yeah.
If you're getting additional value out of it too. But here's the sort of the punishment for that turn, because you got 3 mana, and what are you going to do with this now that your opponent has sort of swung the board back? Pretty much every card left in the Shaman's hand here does have Overload.
However, this is a quite tremendous amount of burst that's available to the Shaman with this hand, and so I wonder if we could have just seen. I guess killing off the ankle bite is pretty important to deny the lifesteal later on in the game, so he can't repetitively heal. But just starting to go face with Doomhammer, an extra 10 damage burst with the Rock Biter.
Oh, that's actually huge. The Doomsayer means that there's no opportunity for development for Beekeeper as the rogue here. He can only really set up this this waggle pick, and that gives a clear turn to Beekeeper, or rather to the Shaman, to just play this Doomhammer to start going face.
Yep.
That is enormous.
That is a huge deal. I mean, that's exactly what the Shaman's plan was going to be, right? Going into this turn was with picking the Lava Burst, getting that Rock Biter. It's very clearly all in on the burn plan, and I like it.
Yeah, if you compare these hands, one of them has 3 minions. It has a minion that makes minions, right? Like, the other hand is just burn spells. You just want a clear board. You just want as much time as possible. Just throw all this damage at your opponent's face.
However, this rogue hand, while you said it was mostly minions, it transitions into damage.
It does.
Very quickly.
But is it fast enough?
We're going to have to find out.
Rockbiter here is 10.
There's 15 damage available on this turn, which would get down to, what, 8 health?
Yeah, no, I mean, this is a one-turn game.
Yeah.
Right, this is just a one-turn game. Rockbiter plus Lava Burst this turn represents, like you said, 15 damage. There's 8 left. There's another Lava Burst.
Which is lethal.
And there's the weapon.
Yep.
So unless a taunt comes down, and that's not even enough, right? Even if a Drake Corsair comes down, there's Voltaic Burst, Earth and Might.
And there's no lethal opportunities available on this turn. It's 4, 8, 12, 16.
And that Chef Nomi is not going to do it. So what can Faceless give? There's no like a Noyotron.
10, 14, 15. Yeah, it's just 15 damage. It's a little off.
I mean, we could see Faceless into a taunt, Shadow Step Faceless into another taunt.
Yes.
I honestly think that's like the best
chance. Yeah.
I mean, maybe here we're hoping to get another Faceless. I don't know what Ethereal Lackey's doing. There's no rogue spell here that helps.
Yeah, I wonder if he got double Kobold Lackey, if that might have been the extra 2 damage he needed to close things out.
Oh yeah.
Because he had plenty of mana spare.
Yeah, I didn't quite exactly count the damage available. Oh, this is after attacks.
What?
But that's after attacks. One of these minions is already attacked, right? So this is 4.
No mana to go.
No, there's not enough.
Yeah, even with the
6.
full utilization, there's no mana.
Very close in the end.
And for the rogue, man, you have got to feel there. If the Doomsayer hadn't been rolled, development would have gone insane to close out the game a turn quicker.
And just 3 life left for the Shaman, but that is all you need. Lava Burst and 2 swings of the Doomhammer, and that seals the deal.
And that does mean that at a record of 9-3, again, it is not Beekeeper, the cameras are the wrong around, but for Jong there, on the Shaman. 9-3 record, I don't think we saw him do all too well at the start of the tournament, so his tiebreaker is maybe a little bit weaker.
Well, we don't know.
We
right,
don't know.
We don't know because we've only seen a certain sort of swath of the field on camera, and it's entirely possible that it's one of the players who's quietly doing pretty well over the course of the first day. So we're gonna have to see how those tiebreakers do break down. But I think we're getting very close to seeing ultimately the final results and how that top 8 will shake out.
I'm excited to see, and no matter what, I mean, I never even thought I'd say this. Derek of a week ago would hate me, but the couple of Warriors we got in there, I'm excited to see how they do. I think it's got some interesting matchups against the field, just because it's a bit different than the majors that we're seeing.
I'm just thinking if there's like a mind control device back here or something that you're just like required to say this or something like that. No,
yeah,
no,
the Broad chip.
I honestly actually, to an extent agree with you because Warrior has really struggled in this tournament, right? And while it's not necessarily a class that we're necessarily usually thrilled to see on ladder, it's interesting to see how people are faring with it in the tournament.
That's right. But we are going to have to go to a quick break before we come with the final matches here in the Swiss tournament, before we end up with finding out who our initial top 8 will be and playing out a couple of those matches. We'll be right back with more Hearthstone here from Masters Tour Seoul.